The components of ecosystem are, we know these things, just you write down. The components of ecosystem are abiotic components, sunlight, water, air, temperature, and soil, and biotic components, which are producers, consumers, and decomposers. Types of ecosystem. There are multiple types of ecosystem on land, in water also, right? Aerial ecosystems are not being seen. Although there could be microbes, but we do not consider it as an ecosystem because these studies do not go up to. Other factors do not consist over there. Because atmosphere में soil नहीं होगा, right? Water नहीं होगा. Water होगा भी तो किसी utilizable form में नहीं होगा. तो हम उसको atmosphere को हम ecosystem में नहीं मानते. But otherwise, there could be two major types of ecosystem. There could be land-based ecosystems and there could be water-based ecosystems. We'll discuss these ecosystems also, their characters also. In the land-based ecosystem, the major ones, forest, then we have agriculture ecosystem, then we have desert, grasslands, in the water-based ecosystem, pond ecosystem, lake ecosystem, wetlands, then oceanic ecosystem, then there could be river-based ecosystem also, riverine, then there is a kelp ecosystem in the coastal areas, coastal ecosystems also. Different types, right? These could be the major types of ecosystem that we can see precisely. Whatever may be the case, the things that we have written for ecosystem, they always remain constant for different ecosystems also. What we have written, if you can go through the processes that we have understood also, ecosystem remains suitable for a biotic community. It is dynamic in nature and it is self-contained in nature. Self-contained, whenever we say the things which are required for the survivability of any living thing or biotic factor, they are all being contained in an ecosystem. Also, it is dynamic in nature. So the basic dynamicity of the ecosystem comes from the very basic fact that the biotics are constantly dependent and interacting with each other. There is a constant relation. There's a constant relation between producers, consumers, and decomposers. Whenever we say constant relation of producers, consumers, and decomposers, there's always some amount of energy which flows through, right? There's some amount of energy that is being gained from, say, sunlight. Energy enters over here. Now from here, it goes from producers to different types of consumers, be it primary consumer, secondary consumer, or tertiary consumer. So from producer into primary, into secondary, into tertiary consumer, the energy flows through. Whatever amount that we'll discuss later as well. Right? Then it goes into decomposers. From decomposers, that same thing can be either existed in the form of different types of the material or in the form of energy as well. So this, then again, it would be taken up by plants or something else, and then again, it would be utilized as well. So this flow of energy would always be there. Or cycling up of energy would always be there. Energy cycle would be there. Also from various factors, be it be from water, be it be from soil, various different types of the nutrients they enter into. It's precisely 4 major types of the nutrients we speak about: nitrogen, carbon, phosphorus, sulfur, right? And oxygen that comes from atmosphere. Also water. These remain as the major nutrients which are being required for different types of the organisms to exist, to grow, and to perform their activities for their structural functions also, and different things as well. So with these, there is a flow of nutrients as well. There is a flow of nutrients. And there is a cycling up of the energy. Both of them, they are together. The flow of nutrients as well as there is the cycling up of the energy. Together these, they form the dynamics of the ecosystem. The complete dynamics of the ecosystem. So ecosystem is dynamic in nature because there is flow of nutrients as well as there is complete cycling up of the energy, which is constantly being seen in this ecosystem also. Any ecosystem you speak about, every ecosystem you speak about, the flow of nutrients and cycling up of the energy is one characteristic feature. If this has been existing, if this has been created, say if there is a landscape and there are certain living beings living in that particular area, and this has been established, that is flow of energy and cycling up of the energy and flow of nutrient is being created in that particular area, that becomes an ecosystem also. Any landscape, अब देखो इसको पीछे से भी पकड़ सकते हो, ecosystem के definition को कैसे पकड़ सकते हो? Any landscape where the flow of nutrients and cycling up of the energy is seen between living beings and biotic factor is called as ecosystem, right? You can say it in that way also. So this is also the basic characteristic of ecosystem. Why I'm trying to say all these things, ये कभी-कभी सीधा question आ जाता है, ठीक है? अभी इसी को twist करके दे दूं ना, तो confuse हो जाओगे. लिखो एक question. Consider following statements regarding ecosystem. Consider following statements regarding ecosystem. Number 1, oceans are the largest ecosystem. Oceans are the largest ecosystem. Statement number 2, ecosystem is characterized by cycling of nutrients. Ecosystem is characterized by cycling of nutrients and flow of energy. Ecosystem is characterized by cycling of nutrients and flow of energy. थोड़ा सा मैंने भी यहाँ पे गड़बड़ लिख दिया. It should be cycling of nutrients. Cycling and energy flow. Number 3, sugarcane field ecosystems are one of the most productive ecosystems. Number 4, energy cycle is the most important dynamic factor of ecosystem. How many of the above are correct? One only, two only, three only, all 4. Only 3. Which one is not correct, according to you? Okay. Anyone else? Anyone in the online? उस पॉइंट ऑफ व्यू से अगर आप देखोगे शुगर केन आपको अगर गलत लग रहा है फिर तो ओनली 2 करेक्ट है. Only 3. Correct. 3 only, but online students, which one is not correct?
Basically creates damage to the land after the harvest. So it stops the.
See, ecological productivity is one another thing that we'll discuss also. Ecological productivity, in a sense, how much amount of the energy is being generated out of it, the food energy which is being generated. Whenever you say ecological productivity, what is the amount of food energy generated out of that agricultural field or out of that ecosystem? Fourth statement is contradictory, right? Simple wording: cycling of nutrients and flow of energy. मैंने भी थोड़ा वो flow में थोड़ा गलत लिख दिया. Flow of energy from one to another dissipated, then again gained from sun one to another dissipated. Cycling of nutrient: nitrogen goes into plants, into animals, into decomposers, again goes into soil, again taken up by plants. Cycling of nutrients, flow of energy. This is the basic dynamics of the ecosystem. So had it been written flow of energy, it would have been correct, all 4 of them correct. Just a single word itself can create a difference in that statement, right? Sometimes such question, अभी जो 2 statements है ना, ये कंफ्यूज करने के लिए बनाए नहीं गए. ये 2 स्टेटमेंट्स तो करेक्ट ही हैं. कौन सा? ओशंस आर द लार्जेस्ट इकोसिस्टम. यस, फिजिकली वी कैन सी. शुगर केन फील्ड्स आर वन ऑफ द मोस्ट प्रोडक्टिव इकोसिस्टम. यस, दे आर. ये फैक्ट है. लेकिन फैक्ट के साथ कॉन्सेप्ट कहां पर है? जो 2 स्टेटमेंट कॉन्सेप्ट वाला है, राइट? अभी आपने देखो, आपने उसको भी ध्यान नहीं दिया. आपने सेकंड स्टेटमेंट में लिखा है ecosystem is characterized by cycling of nutrients and flow of energy, और फोर्थ स्टेटमेंट में लिखा है the cycling up of the energy is the most characteristic phenomena of the ecosystem, right? These 2 are contradictory. These are simple, easy, but becomes tough questions, right? ये confusing questions को हमको counter करना ही चाहिए. Energy would come into ecosystem and is dissipated out of ecosystem. It never comes back. The same energy would not come back. Cycle nitrogen that enters into ecosystem would again come back, right? Flow, there is a cycle, but with the energy it is just a unidirectional flow from one to another to another to another, and again the same energy would not come back again. Decomposers से producers में नहीं आई energy, right? From producer it will always go into consumer, it will always go into decomposer, then it will dissipate. Though it is not being created nor being destroyed, some other form of the energy would be created out of it, but that same type of the energy would not come back, would not flow out. But nitrogen same can come back. Oxygen again can be recycled. These all can be recycled. Carbon again can be recycled. Carbon है plants में है, burn करोगे fossil fuel बनाओगे, carbon dioxide बन के फिर plants में आ जाएगा. Cycling है, right? Energy के साथ वैसा नहीं है. So it is flow of energy and cycling up of the nutrients that takes place over here in the ecosystem. That's why we say simple thing. These are the basic dynamics and the basic meanings of ecosystem whenever we say. So whenever there is a landscape and there is a biotic community living in that particular area, the biotic community and the landscape all together, they become the ecosystem. Ecosystem becomes the basic unit of understanding also whenever ecology is being understood, right? हम कहां से शुरू करते हैं? इकोसिस्टम से शुरू करते हैं, फिर इंडिविजुअल्स पे जाते हैं. ठीक है? बॉटम अप भी करेंगे और टॉप डाउन भी करेंगे. टॉप डाउन कैसे करें? इकोसिस्टम से नीचे जाओगे तो आप देखोगे पॉपुलेशन, फिर आप देखोगे इंडिविजुअल्स, राइट? और इकोसिस्टम से ऊपर जाओगे तो क्या होगा? बहुत सारे इकोसिस्टम्स जब एक साथ मिल जाते हैं, व्हेनेवर देयर आर मेनी इकोसिस्टम्स ऑल टुगेदर in a particular climatic and geographical condition, right? When many ecosystems together are limited by a geographical and climatic condition, they become a biome. They become a biome, right? Meaning, we would say, let's say, see, whenever we say Earth itself, if we define, right, there are 5 major biomes which are being defined in Earth, and these are limited by the climatic conditions only, right? From say 90 degrees north and south up to say 75 degrees, there is one type of the biome. Between 75 to say 60 degrees, there is another type of the biome. Then between 60 to 30, there is another type of the biome. At the equator, there is another type of the biome which is being created. So many ecosystems influenced by the climatic and marked by the geographical conditions are termed as biome. Precisely the Arctic, right? The taiga and the tundra over there. The tundra over here and the taiga just below this. Then comes down the tropical biome, rather temperate biome. Taiga, tundra and taiga, temperate, tropical, and xeric. Now these are all influenced by the specific type of the climate. First, it would be tundra. Tundra, taiga, the temperate or the boreals, tropical, and the xeric. These are 5 different types of the ecosystems or the biomes which are being created. Now, tundra, whenever we say, or we take up from, say, tropical, जहां पे हम हैं, पहले उसको समझते हैं. Tropical, rainfall high, temperature high, right? Rainfall and temperature, whenever we say, right? In tropical, rainfall is also high, right? Temperature is also high. Temperate, rainfall may be high, but temperature is comparatively low. Taiga, temperature is also low, rainfall is also low. Tundra, rainfall very low, temperature is very low. Now come down to xeric, rainfall very low, temperature very high. So these are different types of the ecosystems marked by different physical and the climatic conditions. They are marked by physical climatic conditions and so the geographical conditions, right? Like in tundra, whenever you speak about the uppermost tundra one, which is there in the polar areas. Now there is no soil over here exactly. There's no soil, right? Because soil is all covered by the frozen condition or the ice, right? There's no soil. So everything over there is frozen. When there is no soil, there could not be producers. Right? They could not be produced. When there is no soil, there is no nutrient, there could not be a plant. When there are no plants, there are no producers. So whenever there are no producers, the consumers will also be lesser. Right? Whatever consumers we will find, they will eat themselves only. So what you find over here are the boreals. Boreals, those which dig down into land, right? And such type of the animals are being seen over here, right? Caribou or other types of the boreals are being seen in tundra. Come down to taiga, then taiga becomes is something where temperature comparatively is lesser. The ice starts to melt onto the temperate boundary of the taiga. The ice starts to melt onto the temperate boundary of the taiga. So there is some amount of soil over here. Although the soil or the water present in soil is not available in a particular state that can be absorbed by the plants. That state is called as the permafrost state. We'll discuss all these things again in detail when we'll come up to biodiversity, right? That permafrost condition has been seen over here in taiga, towards the temperate boundaries of taiga. So say there is some amount of vegetation which is seen over here towards the boundaries of temperate boundaries of taiga. On towards tundra side, it is all frozen. So when there is no plant, animals are also less, right? The wandering animals enter into taiga from temperate, right? Like reindeers, वो है ना, अभी सेंटा क्लॉज गए थे, अपना रेनडियर घुमाते हुए आए थे. कहां से आते हैं? पोल से आते हैं ना, यही टुंड्रा वाले एरिया से आते हैं, टैगा वाले एरिया से. वो रेनडियर्स, करबू जो टैगा में है, you will find all these. The boreals you will find in taiga. Towards the temperate boundaries you will find rich forest. Same condition appears in temperate. Now temperate will have 3 different types of the pockets. One which will have comparatively high rainfall, right? High rainfall, which is on towards temperate side, rather which is on towards tropical side. The one which is towards the taiga side will have less rainfall, rather more of the rainfall would be in the form of snow, right? It is a solid precipitation which is seen. And there is a very small pocket where temperature also becomes high and rainfall also becomes high. These are called as the temperate evergreen boreal forests, right? Or then you have those which will have high temperature and high rainfall also. Then they will be temperate broadleaf forest also, right? We'll see all these. And then there would be temperate influenced over here. Right? When producers are being characterized, so their consumers are also being characterized. In the same way, you come down to tropical. Tropical is also divided into 2-3 types, where temperature is high, rainfall is less, becomes deciduous, dry. Temperature is moderate, rainfall is also moderate, it becomes tropical, deciduous, moist. Where temperature is also high, humidity high, rainfall high, it becomes tropical, evergreen type of forest. Now come down to xeric. Temperature is very high and rainfall is very low. Right? We characterize these also in xeric. Whenever we see the rainfall, it is less than 25 centimeters. Less than 25, temperature extremity, more than 40 degrees centigrade across the year. But there are certain cold days also. Extreme chill conditions can also be seen in these xeric conditions. So Rajasthan hai, Sahara hai, ye sab xeric conditions. Then tropical. Rainfall always above 80 centimeters. From 80 to it could be up to 400 centimeters. 400. मौसम ग्राम में कितना जाना है? 200 to 400. तो हम एक्सट्रीमिटी मान रहे हैं ना, एवरग्रीन में 400 तक जा सकते हैं. ऑल्दो कई बुक्स में आपको 300 320 भी मिलेगा. मैक्सिमम इट कैन गो अप टू द एक्सट्रीमिटी, इट कैन बी 400 centimeters, right? In tropical. In temperate you will find it in lesser range. In temperate it could be 60 to 150 centimeters. There are different areas. Although temperate evergreen में it can be up to 200 centimeters, right? Taiga temperate again 25 to 60 centimeters. Most of it in solid precipitation. Tundra, 25 centimeters and less, right? Very low temperature, very low rainfall is tundra. Very low rainfall and very high temperature is xeric. These are two extremities. Cold deserts, hot deserts. Between them, we have taiga, temperate and tropical. So whenever ecosystems, they are demarcated by the geographical conditions or the climatic conditions, these are called as biomes, right? Between two biomes, say if this is what we are talking about, say this is taiga and this is temperate. Between these two biomes, or even if there is a tropical biome, right? Between two biomes, there's always a zone of transition. There's always a zone of transition of climatic condition, physical conditions, as well as of different types of vegetation and the animal species living, right? Some which can originate over here, they also go into these conditions. Some which originate over here, they also come down into these conditions. So there is a zone of transition. These zone of transition between these different types of the biomes are called as ecotones. These different zones are called as ecotones. Now, in the zone of transition also, there is a genetic transition. In the zone of transition also, there is a genetic transition. What is this genetic transition? Say, for example, in the example itself, say taiga, and we are talking about temperate, right? In the temperate, say a variety of the plant they would grow, right? So A would grow like this over here, over here, over here, over here. And in the tundra or taiga, B variety of the plants are growing. So B would grow over here, over here, over here, over here. This is the zone of transition, which is ecotone. But there is a genetic line over here that the A will have its own genetics. So this is the genetic line. And B will have its own genetics. This is a genetic line of B. This is a genetic line of B, right? So there is a genetic demarcation. There is a genetic demarcation in the ecotone. This genetic transition or genetic demarcation in the ecotone is called as ecoline. What is this? Ecoline. And over here in the ecotones or over here in these biomes, you will find the ecotypes. What is ecotype? What is ecotype? It is a type of population which is suited to its climatic condition. You will find ecotypes, right? Ecotypes. Ecotypes of a particular biome are also ECADs. Ecotypes of a particular biome are also ECADs, right? The zone of transition is called as, we'll write it down. Genetic transition means A is a variety, right? And B is a separate variety. You talk about, say, peach ले लो. Peach क्या है? Temperate है, right? And you take up, say, anything from tropical. अब इंडिया में बात कर लेते हैं, ठीक है? Anything from देवदार ले लो इंडिया में, और ये ले लो, this teak wood ले लो, ठीक है? ये कॉम्बिनेशन आपको मिल जाएगा यूपी के अपर स्ट्रेचेस में, ठीक है? अब यूपी से उधर से क्या आ रहा है? टेम्परेट आ रहा है, बिकॉज वो सब हिमालयन इन्फ्लुएंस है. देवदार जहां पर भी है, सेड्रस, राइट? एंड देन यू हैव टीक, राइट? यहां से टीक फॉरेस्ट चल रहा है, ऊपर से देवदार आ रहा है. अब ये एक जोन ऑफ ट्रांजिशन होगा जहां पे क्या होगा? टीक और देवदार आपको दोनों देखने मिलेगा, होगा ना? ऐसे बहुत से एरियाज हैं जहां पे टीक, जैसे ये आप नैनीताल जाते हो, देवदार भी मिलेगा और वहां पे आपको थोड़े से इन्फ्लुएंसेस शोरिया रोबस्टा या टीक भी मिल जाएगा कुछ जगह पे, ठीक है? या उससे इन्फ्लुएंस वेजिटेशन आपको मिल जाएगी वहां पे, या इवन वहां पर आपको जैसे, अच्छा ये जैक फ्रूट पूछा था, ठीक है ना? जैक फ्रूट पूछा था ना अभी, हाँ, ट्रॉपिकल डेसिडुअस है, और उधर से क्या है? टेम्परेट चला रहा है, टेम्परेट डेसिडुअस. देवदार क्या है? टेम्परेट डेसिडुअस है. ये जैक फ्रूट है. ये दोनों चीजें कॉन्टिन्यूटी में मिलती हैं कई जगह पे फॉरेस्ट. तो ये क्या इंटरमिक्स हो गया, राइट? लेकिन देवदार का अपना एक लाइन है, तो देवदार की लाइन आप कहां से कहां तक मानोगे? वहां से ऊपर से जेनेटिक लाइन एक देवदार की बनाओगे, ऐसी यहां तक है, ठीक है? इस स्ट्रेच के बाद देवदार नहीं मिलता या सेड्रस नहीं मिलता. और जैक फ्रूट की कहां से बनाओगे? यहां नीचे से, यहां से ऐसे ऐसे जोन ऑफ ट्रांजिशन में ये. So that genetic variability that you have created, that this is one genetics, this is another genetics, although they are intermixed over here, but the genetic variability is seen, right? They are different. क्योंकि इसका तो broad leaf होगा, उसका तो short leaf होगा, right? उसके ऐसे cone shape होंगे, इसके क्या होंगे? इसके ऐसे फैले हुए होंगे trees, जैकफ्रूट के. तो देयर इज अ जेनेटिक वेरिएबिलिटी. फिजियोलॉजिकल वेरिएबिलिटी तो है ही, जेनेटिक वेरिएबिलिटी भी है, बिकॉज दैट बिलोंग्स टू अ सेपरेट फैमिली, दैट बिलोंग्स टू अ सेपरेट फैमिली. So when you combine these things, you create a line. This is ecoline. This is an ecoline, which is inside the ecotone. So the genetic variability inside the ecotone defines the ecoline. Right? Ecotone समझ में आया? It is the zone of transition. Zone of transition. Right? चलिए देखिए. Biomes. Biomes. It is the aggregation of various ecosystems. It is the aggregation of various ecosystems. Aggregation of various ecosystems which are limited by a set of physical and climatic conditions. Which are limited by a set of physical and climatic conditions. Or many ecosystems suited to a climatic condition. Many ecosystems suited to a climatic condition are called as biome. Every biome has its characteristic climatic. Every biome has its characteristic climatic and vegetative composition. Climatic and vegetative composition. Climatic and vegetative composition. The boundaries of biome are limited by climatic condition. Then you can write down the 5 types of biomes defined. 5 types of biomes defined: tundra, taiga, temperate, tropical, and xeric. Tundra, taiga, temperate, tropical, and xeric. You want to write down the characteristics, you can also write. Tropical temperature range is 30 to 35. Extremities can be countered. Temperate temperature ranges can be 10 to 20 degrees centigrade. Taiga. It is -5 to 15 degrees centigrade. Tundra, -20 and below. Extremities can be seen to 5 degrees centigrade. Right. Next, you can write down ecotones. Ecotones are the zone of transition between two biomes. It is a zone of transition between two biomes. It is characterized by mixed climatic condition and vegetation. It is characterized by mixed climatic condition and vegetation. It is a zone of tension. It is a zone of tension of species. Zone of tension of species due to intermediate physical conditions. The number of species of any species, the number of individuals of any species shows a progressive increase from ecotone towards the biome. Ecotone can be narrow or wide. Ecotone can be narrow or wide depending on diversity of species, in any biome. The number of species in any ecotone, next point, the number of species in any ecotone is always higher than the subsequent biome, This is called as the edge effect. Right? The number of species, right, they would be higher because ecotone is the zone of transition. So the species of one biome and the species of other biome, they would always be seen over here, right? So the relative number of species compared to this and the relative number of species compared to this, they would be higher, right? जैसे अभी बता रहा है ना, देवदार वाले में तो सिर्फ देवदार मिलेगा, इधर तो सिर्फ जैकफ्रूट मिलेगा, लेकिन यहाँ पे तो दोनों मिलेंगे. So the number of species over here is higher than the number of species over there. जहाँ देवदार वाला is higher than the number of species which are there over here. जहाँ पे जैकफ्रूट वाला है. So the number of species is higher. This is called as the edge effect. That also means, ये अभी हम biodiversity में भी पढ़ेंगे, the diversity of species or the biodiversity's richness is always higher in ecotone compared to the biome. You can write it down also. The species richness and species diversity. As well as species density. Species richness, diversity, and density in any ecotone is always higher than the subsequent biomes. Right? कुछ जगहों पे इसका एक्सेप्शन आ जाता है, जैसे ग्रासलैंड इकोसिस्टम है. Grasslands, they are transition zone between desert and the forest. There the density decreases, species density decreases, though the diversity may be higher or density may be lower, except लिख लीजिए इसमें, except desert ecosystem. Right? Next, you can write down ecoline. It is the genetic gradient of species in any ecotone. It occurs across environmental, temperature, soil, salinity gradients also. Right? Be it be there would be a transition of, say, soil, be it be there's a transition of water present, be it be there's a transition of salt present. These boundaries, they can be seen, or these different types of the genetic species can be. So it always goes beyond all these boundaries or all these gradients. So that's why this ecoline has been defined separately. Right? Now, with this, whenever there are all the biomes which are being brought together, this all becomes biosphere. Biosphere is the cumulative form of all the biomes together, right? Or we can say biosphere is the cumulative form of all the biotic and abiotic factors present on Earth. So it includes all the living beings, lithosphere, hydrosphere, and the atmosphere altogether is biosphere altogether, right? You can write down aggregate form of all the biotic and abiotic factors present on Earth. Aggregate form of all the biotic and abiotic factors present on Earth is biosphere. So this is how the basic hierarchy between in the ecology is being created, right? So the largest form of hierarchy is biosphere. Now we top down over here, right? In the biosphere, there are many biomes altogether. In the biomes, there could be many ecosystems altogether. In the ecosystems itself, there could be two things again. There could be a landscape and there could be biotic community altogether, right? In the landscape, there could be various habitats which are being created pertaining to the population of different types of the individuals which are present. In the habitats, there could be various micro habitats which are being created, right, pertaining to different individuals of a particular species or various other species also, right? Many individuals can inhabit in a micro habitat and habitat. Various habitats, they form the landscape of that particular area, and so the biotic community forms the basic ecosystem. This is the basic hierarchy of the complete ecosystem or the environment that we say. This is the basic hierarchy. Now, in this hierarchy itself, whenever we say a biotic community or population or anything, whatever starts in this biosphere, whatever starts in this ecosystem, right? We have seen this thing also. In the ecosystem, there is a dynamics of the ecosystem also, right? That dynamics of the ecosystem is flow of nutrients and flow of energy. Flow of energy and cycling up of the nutrients is something which is being created, right? Which forms the basic function of the ecosystem as well. Now, this all is being gained by what? What is the basic fundamental unit over here? Individual is the basic fundamental unit over here, which creates all these things together, right? Which will create all these things together. Now, with the individual in any ecosystem, there are two things that would always be the characteristic of that individual, right? What are these two characteristics? One is the physical form of that individual, right? Or the physical space of that individual, which is being defined by microhabitat. The physical space, the quantity of that individual can be defined over here by the microhabitat. But what about the quality of that individual? When you say quantitative analysis, right? Quantitative analysis का मतलब क्या होता है? Number of things, right? मैं हूं, मेरे जैसे और लोग हैं, करोल बाग में रहते हैं, right? या और भी लोग हैं, कहीं और रहते हैं, right? These are all quantities of the individual. What do we mean by quality? Finest form of it, or what is your role? What is your function? You all live over here in Karol Bagh. What is your role? You are an aspirant. What aspirant? IAS aspirant, right? So that defines the basic identity. Your function defines your basic, or your basic role defines the basic identity. So the basic identity of any individual in the ecosystem is called as its ecological niche. Its ecological niche. For every individual in the ecosystem, there is a place, or there is a role, or there is an identity of exclusivity. Role, place, function, or identity of exclusivity, which is being attained by the characteristic of that individual, which is being attained by the characters of that individual. That is called as ecological niche. ये लिखवा दूंगा, पहले समझ लो, कंफ्यूजन बहुत होता है इसमें. लोगों को लगता है इकोलॉजिकल नीश कोई फिजिकल स्पेस है. इकोलॉजिकल नीश कोई फिजिकल स्पेस नहीं है, ठीक है? इकोलॉजिकल नीश एक आइडेंटिटी है. व्हाट इज योर आइडेंटिटी? आप पूछते हो ना, व्हाट इज योर नेम, पहले नेम बताओगे, सरनेम बताओगे, फिर कोई पूछेगा अच्छा कहां से हो, वहां से, राइट? अच्छा वहां पे कहां से, वहां से, उस फैमिली. ये क्या है? आपकी आइडेंटिटी है ना, आपकी पूरी नेम प्लेट लेके चलते हो ना. अभी कोई पूछेगा आपके घर में कहीं जाते हो, अच्छा किसके क्या नाम है, ये नाम है, किसके बेटे हो, उसके बेटे. XYZ के बेटे, राइट? अच्छा, वो XYZ उनका तो बड़ा नाम है, तो आपकी क्या आइडेंटिटी क्या है? आपकी अपनी एक आइडेंटिटी तो है फंक्शन से, आपके रोल से, आपकी फिजिकल स्पेस से, लेकिन आपकी आइडेंटिटी किससे बनी? उससे बनी, दैट यू आर द ग्रैंड डॉटर और ग्रैंडसन ऑफ XYZ और समथिंग लाइक दैट। तो क्या है? योर आइडेंटिटी इन द इकोसिस्टम इज कॉल्ड एज इकोलॉजिकल नीश, एंड दैट आइडेंटिटी मे बी वुड ऑलवेज बी एक्सक्लूसिव, दैट आइडेंटिटी वुड ऑलवेज बी एक्सक्लूसिव। अगर आप एक ही भाई हो या एक ही बहन हो, तो आपने ग्रैंडफादर की एक ही आइडेंटिटी हो ना, एक से ज्यादा दो हो सकते हैं। आपका सिबलिंग है तो दो हो जाएंगे, दो इंडिविजुअल हैं जिनकी सिमिलर आइडेंटिटी है, जैसे मेरे और मेरे भाई की सिमिलर आइडेंटिटी होगी। सो वी आर टू इंडिविजुअल्स ऑफ द सेम स्पीशीज हैविंग द सेम आइडेंटिटी। इन द सेम वे, इन एन इकोसिस्टम, individuals of the same species can have the similar identity, but no two species or individuals of two species can have the same identity. Every species will have its own exclusive, unique identity, and that identity is called as ecological niche. अब उसको आप कुछ भी बोल दो, रोल बोल दो, फंक्शन बोल दो, उसका नेम प्लेट बोल दो, वो क्या काम कर रहा है वो बोल दो, वो कैसे काम कर रहा है वो बोल दो, दैट विल ऑलवेज रिमेन एक्सक्लूसिव टू एन इंडिविजुअल और टू अ पर्टिकुलर स्पीशी, और टू अ पर्टिकुलर स्पीशी, राइट? ये ठीक है। एंड दैट इंडिविजुअल हैज दैट क्वालिटी, दैट character to attain that identity in that ecosystem. That's why it is into that niche, right? मतलब क्या हुआ अभी? इसका मतलब क्या हुआ? इसको एग्जाम्पलीफाई करो। देखो, क्लास 12 क्लास 10 सबने पढ़ी होगी, ठीक है? क्लास 10 सबने पढ़ी है। कौन कौन से नॉर्मल सब्जेक्ट्स लेके, एसएसटी भी होगा, साइंस भी होगा, मैथ्स भी होगा, हिंदी भी होगा, इंग्लिश भी होगा, कुछ जगहों पे संस्कृत भी होगा, राइट? सबने पढ़ा। लेकिन क्लास 11th में आते साथ क्या हुआ? डिमार्केशन हो गया। ये मैथ्स फिजिक्स केमिस्ट्री पढ़ेंगे, ये बायोलॉजी फिजिक्स केमिस्ट्री पढ़ेंगे, ये अकाउंट्स पढ़ेंगे, कॉमर्स पढ़ेंगे, राइट? कुछ ऐसे होंगे जो आर्ट्स के सब्जेक्ट पढ़ेंगे, ह्यूमैनिटीज के सब्जेक्ट्स पढ़ेंगे, राइट? सबका एक डिमार्केशन हो गया। अब डिमार्केशन के बाद क्या हुआ? आप धीरे धीरे आगे बढ़ते हो, पीजी कर लेते हो, यूजी कर लेते हो, पीजी कर लेते हो। अब वो जो 11th क्लास में जिसने बायोलॉजी लिया था वो क्या है? यूजी पीजी करके क्या बन गया? डॉक्टर बन गया, ठीक है? जो इंजीनियरिंग जिसने किया वो क्या करेगा? बीटेक करेगा, इंजीनियर बन गया। अभी हम यूटोपिक कंडीशन में बात करें, इंडिया की बात नहीं कर रहे, ठीक है? नाउ the person who is called as a doctor in the society, or a person who is called as an engineer in the society, or a person who is called as a chartered accountant in the society, or a person who is called as an history professor in the society, what are these? These are all their identities. Why these are identities? Because they perform a set of function. Because since they perform a set of functions, so that identity is being created, so that is their ecological niche or social niche. Why that is a doctor? Why the other one cannot be called as a doctor? अभी आप बोलो सीए को कि इंजेक्शन लगा दो, सीए को बोलो कि इंजेक्शन लगा दो, नहीं लगा सकता ना, right? Because CA is not qualified for that. He has taken that time, he has taken that degree, he has taken that qualification, he has all the characteristics to perform that function, or he has all the characteristics for that identity, which the other one would not be able to do. डॉक्टर से बोलो अकाउंटिंग कर दो, ठीक है, आईटी ग्रेड पढ़नी है नेक्स्ट डे, right? So different sets of identities are being created according to different sets of functions in the ecosystem. In the same way, the ecological niche is being considered, right? In the same way, ecological niche is considered. Ecological niche मतलब आप डॉक्टर साहब हो, आप इंजीनियर हो, आप सीए साहब हो, आप प्रोफेसर हो, ये आपके नीश है। अब क्या है? डॉक्टर का भी एक अपना सेट ग्रुप है। The individuals which are called as doctors, they are exclusive. They are exclusive. कोई और को डॉक्टर नहीं बोलोगे. So that is also a place of exclusivity. In terms of ecology, this comes down to individuals and species. One species will have one role, one identity, so it's ecological niche. Other species may not be able to take that role or may not be able to take that ecological niche. If the other species comes into the same place, अब और कोई आता है, कुछ और डिग्री लेके आता है, ठीक है? मान लो एक डॉक्टर है जिसने एमबीबीएस, एमडी और एमसीएच करके आया। अब उसको अगर किसी और को कोई और डिग्री लेके आता है या किसी और को डॉक्टर बनना है कोई और डिग्री के साथ, मान लो वो बीएएमएस और वो सब करके आ गया, ठीक है? तो वो डॉक्टर बनेगा, लेकिन कब बनेगा? जब इसको हटा देगा, ठीक है? In an ecosystem, one role is performed by one species. So in an ecosystem, the ecological niche becomes exclusive, ठीक है? If the other species has to take an ecological niche, it has to compete with the existing species, and when there is an extinction of one of these species, the other species would take that niche. ठीक है, एक डॉक्टर दूसरा डॉक्टर, एक डिग्री दूसरा डिग्री, जब तक ये इसको हटा नहीं देगा तब तक ये डॉक्टर नहीं बनेगा। नहीं तो ये क्या होगा, चले जाओ कहीं और जाके डॉक्टर बन जाओ, यहां तो यही डॉक्टर है, ठीक है, तुम कहीं और चले जाओ, माइग्रेट कर जाओ, या इसको आके एक्सक्लूड कर दो। दैट इज ऑल्सो कॉल्ड एज Allen's law of competitive exclusion, right? One species will always have one ecological niche. If the other species tries to take that ecological niche, it has to exclude the existing species. There would always be a competition, or competition between two species is also seen due to the struggle for ecological niche. Two species try to take two different types of the ecological niche, right? Similar ecological niche may not be seen. Another thing, there could be a dominant niche, there could be a recessive niche, right? If one particular species is taking a larger role in the ecosystem, one particular species is taking a larger role in this ecosystem, then the niche is broader. Exemplify करो, एक बड़ा सा प्लांट है, banyan tree है, ठीक है, banyan tree है, उसमें बहुत सारे इंसेक्ट्स हैं, उन इंसेक्ट्स को खाने के लिए बहुत सारे बर्ड्स आ जाएंगे, राइट? लेकिन डोमिनेंट रोल किसका है? ट्री का, ठीक है, because tree is providing fixation, nutrition, shadow, sunlight, everything, food, energy, everything provided by the tree. So the broader niche is being attained by the tree. The narrower niche is attained by the insect and the birds. So there could be a dominant niche which can be broader. If the larger set of functions are being taken up by one particular species, then the niche becomes broader, right? Another thing, one larger niche can be fragmented into small niches to accommodate more species. One larger niche can be fragmented into small pieces to accommodate more niches together, right? जैसे अब वो banyan tree में थोड़ा सा आके algae भी लग जाएगा तो वो भी प्रोड्यूसर का काम करेगा। अभी वो क्या हुआ, एक niche को हमने फ्रेगमेंट करके दो अलग अलग स्पीशीज बना दी, ठीक है। अब एक niche का काम क्या है, फूड, शेल्टर, फिक्सेशन, और एक niche का काम क्या है, सिर्फ फूड, ठीक है। तो एल्गी अपना सिर्फ फूड का काम करेगा, लेकिन यहाँ पे banyan tree क्या करेगा, फूड, फिक्सेशन, shelter सबका काम करेगा, right? So a larger niche can be fragmented into smaller niche or can be divided into smaller niches to accommodate more number of species that can diversify the ecosystem also, or the biodiversity of that ecosystem can also be increased because of this. ये भी समझ में आया क्या, right? चलो, तो ये है basic function और basic meaning of ecological niche. Ecological niche is no physical space, ठीक है। अब आपसे बोल दिया ये डॉक्टर कौन है, तो डॉक्टर तो वो क्वालिटी है, उसका फिजिकल स्पेस कहाँ है, कोई फिजिकल स्पेस नहीं। हॉस्पिटल तो उसका हैबिटेट है, माइक्रो हैबिटेट है। There is no physical space called as niche. Niche is just the quality of any individual or quality of any species. Whatever is the quality of that particular species, what role that species would perform, that is the niche, nothing else, right? You can write it down. Ecological, yeah.
Everybody's ecological niche would be
Exclusive?
For example, like for humans, how are ecological niche?
Humans, your ecological niche is, what is your role in food chain? You are the consumer, you're not the producer. So the ecological niche of producer is taken up by the plants, of the consumer taken up by the humans. Now all the humans, I'm not talking about individual or group of individual of the same species, right? Exclusive, right? अब जैसे धीरे धीरे क्या हुआ, प्लांट्स को खाने वाले हर्बीवोर्स हैं, ह्यूमंस ने भी अपना एक फ्रेगमेंट किया ना नीश, उसके बाद हर्बीवोर्स और कार्निवोर्स दोनों हो गया, तो एक नीश हो गया, ओमनीवोर हो गया, राइट? तो बोला ना, एक लार्जर नीश कैन बी फ्रेगमेंटेड इनटू स्मॉल पार्ट्स टू अकोमोडेट मोर नंबर ऑफ स्पीशीज। तो इकोसिस्टम में तो ये चलता रहेगा, बट सेम पोजीशन एज द ह्यूमंस हैव, ऐसा तो नहीं ह्यूमंस जैसा पोजीशन, क्योंकि ह्यूमंस के बहुत सारे रोल है, सिर्फ ईटिंग नहीं है, और भी रोल है, इजेशन है, प्रोटेक्शन है, बिल्डिंग है, डिवास्टेशन है। सिमिलर रोल इज नॉट बीन परफॉर्म बाय टाइगर। हम तो वीट भी बनाते हैं और खाते भी हैं, हमारा रोल है इकोसिस्टम में, एग्रीकल्चरल फीड बनाते भी हैं, उसको यूज भी करते हैं, फॉरेस्ट को ब्रेक डाउन भी करते हैं, बनाते हैं, लेकिन टाइगर नहीं करता। टाइगर सिर्फ क्या है, कार्निवोर है, खाता है, ठीक है। सो functions can be diversified and these functions then become the exclusive part of that ecosystem also, or that exclusive part of that species also. अब जैसे humans supreme species क्यों है, because we can perform more dynamic functions. Now the dynamicity of a particular species in any ecosystem, or the dynamicity of any particular niche makes it more superior to compared to other niches also. If a particular niche is having a larger set of function or multiverse function, then it would be more superior than the other niches also. But it would not be the case that the similar role would be taken by the other species. No. Okay. Unless you are the individual of the same species, you will not have the same role. You will not have the same niche. Niche is never shared. It is always exclusive. Habitats are shared, not exclusive. Habitat is a physical place. Niche is a qualitative place, right? You can write it down. Niche, ecological niche, defines the qualitative existence, of any species, qualitative existence of any species or its individual in any ecosystem. In any ecosystem. It is a kind of functional role. It is a kind of functional role or position, functional role or position or identity of individuals of any species, or identity of individuals of any species based on potentials and functions, of those individuals in ecosystem. Potentials and functions of those individuals in ecosystem. Niche is always exclusive to a species. Niche is always exclusive to any species. Niche is always exclusive to any species in any ecosystem. In any ecosystem, two species cannot attain a similar niche. Two species cannot attain a similar niche. Next. Niche can be broader or narrower. Niche can be broader or narrower depending upon the diversity of functions performed by any species, in any ecosystem. In any ecosystem. Next, niche can be superior or inferior. Niche can be superior or inferior depending upon the multiverse of functions, of that species in the ecosystem. Right, जैसे banyan tree वाले ecosystem में banyan tree superior niche है, because it is not only providing food, it is also providing shelter, it is also providing water, it is also providing fixation, everything. A similar role would not be attained by anything else. Right. Another thing, a broader niche can be fragmented. A broader niche can be fragmented. Into many niches to accommodate more number of species in any ecosystem. Right? These could be certain things. Apart from this, you can also write down types of niche. Number one, habitat niche. Habitat niche means if that role has been provided by, say, by the place where it has been living, right? If that role has been performed because of that habitat only, then it becomes habitat niche. जैसे for example, कुछ species हैं जैसे mangrove. Mangrove का अपना एक role है. What is the basic role of mangrove? Mangroves. सुना है mangroves का role? They are coastal plants. They are there just to reduce the soil erosion. So the basic function in the ecosystem is to reduce soil erosion. Now, because since they are at the coastal area, since their roots are at the coastal area, they are habitated in that area, so they can do it. They're not specifically doing it. So the character because of its habitat. So it becomes habitat niche. Example, mangrove. Then controls the salinity, fine. It is not the exactly role for controlling the salinity, but it is the role of, we can say, controlling the soil erosion, mangroves. Next, food niche. If that role has been performed, since it is a type of food only, right? Food niche. Then reproductive niche. If that role has been performed because of, say, low or high rate of reproduction of any particular species. So reproductive niche. And physical and chemical niche. Physical and chemical niche. If that role is being performed because of certain types of physical conditions provided or certain types of chemicals liberated by a particular species in that particular area. So it becomes a physical or chemical niche. So in this way, different types of niches, they are being created in any particular area, right? Respective to a particular habitat, in a particular habitat, according to the niche of any particular individual, there are multiple zones which are also being created. We have spoken about this thing, that if this is the basic habitat of any individual, then inside the habitat itself, the conditions would be non-limiting. The conditions would be surviving, or the conditions of survivability would be higher, right? So different zones are being created in the ecosystem, in the habitat itself. Just inside the boundaries of the habitat, right? The zone of availability is being created. Right? Near the boundaries of the habitat, the zone of stress is being created. Together, the zone of availability and the zone of stress, they are called as the zone of tolerance, right? Zone of availability, or we can also say the optimal zone, right? Together, these, the optimal zone and the zone of stress, they are called as the zone of tolerance or range of tolerance, because the individual can tolerate these. These are called as the zone of tolerance, or also the range of tolerance. The conditions inside the range of tolerance, they are non-limiting. As we go from the boundaries of zone of tolerance towards the optimal zone, the conditions become non-limiting. Non-limiting means favorable. Right? As we go outside the range or zone of tolerance, the conditions become limiting. Conditions themselves become limiting in this area, right? Beyond the range of tolerance, conditions are limiting. Inside the range of tolerance, the conditions are non-limiting. Survival is higher. These different zones or ranges are also being defined over here, right? As far as a particular individual or its hierarchy is being considered, right? So in this way, we define the ecosystem. The different types or patterns of ecosystem is also being defined over here, right? Now, with respect to this, we'll take up the class up to this point only today. आगे से next class, from next class onward, your class would be up to 2:45. Okay with you, all of you? 2:45 is okay, right? So आज क्योंकि बिना नोटिस के इसलिए छोड़ देता हूँ. Next class से थोड़ा सा लंबा हम लेंगे क्लास को. In the next class, that would be on Wednesday, we'll discuss about the basic dynamics of the ecosystem, different types of the ecosystem, and the basic composition of the biotic and abiotic factors of the ecosystem. Specifically, how soil influences and various things associated with soil, water, temperature, atmosphere, components of that. That would be more factual thing which is required, but we need to discuss those things also. Then the interactions that are there between biotic factors, different types of interactions, symbiosis, mutualism, proto-cooperation, commensalism, amensalism, parasitism, competition. These all different types of the interactions we will discuss about. The examples of these interactions are more important. Different types of examples of these are more important. We will discuss about those. Then we will take up the ecosystem dynamics, the food chain associated aspects and the processes associated with that. And then we will take up different types of the ecosystem, specifically all those which we have listed. We will take up those and their characteristics also. Lake है, तो lake में क्या characters है? अब lake और wetland कैसे different है? आपने वेटलैंड भी लिखा, लेक भी लिखा, 8 मीटर्स, 8 मीटर्स, 6 मीटर से ऊपर और 6 मीटर से नीचे, उसमें बहुत से कैरेक्टर्स हैं। सनलाइट पेनिट्रेट करती है, टेम्परेचर कैसा होता है, सब चीजें we'll discuss about that, right? We'll also take up the underground water reserves also, कैसे aquatards, clouds, ये सब चीजें।
Introducing the Prelims Target Course and Prelims Test Series at ProdEgyIAS. Designed for UPSC Prelims 2026, this comprehensive program offers in-depth classes on history, geography, science and tech, environment, polity and governance, and economy. Stay updated with current affairs and sharpen your skills with our Prelims Test Series consisting of 50 full-length tests covering all subjects along with CSAT. Join ProdEgyIAS and stay ahead.